Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Dear members of the press, I just briefed the Security Council on the topic of a new orientation for reformed multilateralism. I asked member states, the same member states whom I represent in the General Assembly just down the hallway, how long will they allow political and ideological rifts to prevent collective action for peace? The 193 member states of the General Assembly elect the majority of the Security Council members. The other 5 are mandated by the membership through the UN Charter. Member states expect the Council to uphold the Charter and act collectively for the good of all. We know that when the Council comes together, lives are saved. Similarly and tragically, we also know that the human costs when the Council cannot agree. So I reminded member states that for the UN to prove its relevance, its raison d'être, for it to survive, it must deliver solutions for this end users. The people outside of here do not live their lives in boxes labeled peace and security, human rights, or development. They are not concerned in the internal mandate differences amongst the General Assembly, ECOSOC, the Secretariat, or Security Council. For them, we are one UN. The UN that succeeds or the UN that fails. So it makes sense that we collaborate across bodies, organs, and processes and build on efforts already underway. The so-called veto initiative has opened an important door for the new form of collaboration and accountability. The Assembly has been obliged to step up when the decisions of this Council are blocked. Following the mandate given by the Member States, I will always convene a formal debate on the use of veto in the 77th General Assembly when it's necessary. This will allow Member States to reflect on the initiative and how to bring our 2 organs closer to work together for global peace and security. Because that is our goal. Reform inside for results outside. I fully support today's discussions and I'm ready to support the decisions of the Member States. Thank you.
Yes, thank you for the briefing here. In terms of Security Council reform, would you support or think it's a reasonable idea to expand the number of countries or members on the Council that have veto power, and also more specifically a proposal by the President of the African Union for 2 permanent members from the African continent to be determined among themselves who would have veto power on the Security Council?
Thank you very much. I heard these arguments pro and con this morning, as well as during my consultations with the Member States. With your indulgence, my role is not to take a position and to tell Member States what should be their final solution in the reform process. My role is to nominate the 2 co-facilitators, launch the process, and provide all the circumstances for them to come to terms. It was, it is, and it will be a Member State-driven process. My role is to facilitate their discussions, not to prejudge the outcome.
Evelyn Leopold. On the same topic as my colleague here, you only so far, I believe, have 3 out of 5 permanent.
I can-
3 out of 5 permanent members of the Security Council who favor expansion and big changes. Are you anybody speaking to the other 2?
Yes, I heard them this morning, and I heard them when I had bilateral meetings with their leaders in the office of the president. You may know that the comprehensive reform of the Security Council might be containing 5 different areas. One of them is the expansion of the membership. There are groups of the member states who are very much for the expansion of the permanent and non-permanent membership. There are others who favor the expansion only the non-permanent membership. There are countries who favor the preservation of the existing veto rights. There are some others who would like to abolish all veto rights. There are also countries who favor the expansion of the non-permanent membership with similar veto rights or reform veto rights compared to the one what we have today. Yet again, it would be intellectually very easy to suggest a solution, but it's not my role. I cannot step out of my role, so it will be the responsibility of the member states to iron out a compromise. As we stand with these positions, compromise is not on the horizon. Therefore, I plead and I ask membership to think over if we really want to make a reform of the Security Council, if we really want to make a significant progress ahead that is very much expected by the world, then we need to now think in terms of compromises. Where should be those compromises that could be acceptable for very different negotiating groups? If we stick to the current positions, then we may spend another 17 years.
Yes, Azim Mian from GeoTV, following the same footsteps of my colleague. What is your view about United for Consensus? That means democratization of the United Nations and its organs by the involvement of all and participation of all the 193 members, which is really a democratic principle. How do you react to that formula?
The United for Consensus is one of the 5 or 6 major negotiating groups on the reform of the Security Council. I have equal respect to all groups, be it the UFC, be it others, the African group or the G4 or on many others. I see merits in the position of all of them. The question is not how to choose one out of the 5. The question is whether 5 or 6 negotiating groups now could sit down and come together and finding a common ground. I would like to see it as soon as possible.
One last question.
Thank you, Mr. President. If I may ask you to give us a quick comment on your reaction to what's happening in Iran right now, and especially the removal of Iran from the CSW Commission. What's your general position on what's happening, please?
Usually, a president of the General Assembly should not comment internal affairs of a single member state. I'm representing 193 member states, including Iran, including many others, but I'm not representing any of them particularly. So therefore, with your indulgence, I'm refraining from commenting what is going on in details in Iran. I'd like to call each and every member state, including Iran or the other 192, to respect human rights, respect the rights of the citizens for expressing their views, owing their country, owing their future, and I call all leadership to have peaceful solutions for the internal problems. We all have internal problems in each and every country, in 193 countries. But in each and every case, according to the UN Charter, we committed ourselves to pursue peaceful negotiations. Concerning the elections in the ECOSOC, you may know that there's a division of labor between the ECOSOC and the General Assembly. So it's not my turn to comment on the outcome of the elections, but it was the vote of the membership. So it was a vote of the membership according to the rules of the ECOSOC. I will respect the will of the membership.
Thank you very much.
Paulina?